longer.
Ben Shabibo, Biden is now president. Now what? Okay. Now we can go back to regular order of business for the likes of Ben Shabibo. He doesn't have to fucking defend Donald Trump anymore. So now he can literally just talk about how Democrats are communists and they're dictators. And, you know, it's literally George Orwell, 1989. Animal Factory, Animal Farm, Animal Crossing. You know? All of that when Joe Biden says, like, you need to wear a mask. I accidentally said the right name when I was making fun of him. George Orwell's Animal Crossing.
Growing inequity, the sting of
That
systemic
he wrote in 1987.
racism, a climate in crisis.
That's
We
literally
must end this
1989.
civil war.
It was mainly kind of pablum.
Wait, he has new editors, I think. What did he do? Go to Nashville and get new editors? Because this is pretty good. The cutting of this is pretty good.
But here's the thing. When people use deliberately vague terminology,
Okay, never mind. The fucking shaky office-style camera is moronic, though.
like unity, without defining what they mean by unity, when they use deliberately vague language, like truth versus lies, but they don't define what they mean by truth and what they mean by lies, and when they say that there are a bunch of crises that are racking the nation and they misdefine the crises, this is the predicate for something that does not look like it's going to solve crisis, something that does not look like truth, and something that does not look like unity. So this has been Biden's shtick since the beginning of his candidacy, is that he was going to be a unifying figure in American public life. He's a weird...
Oh, God, he's going to do the... Oh, God, conservatives just literally bite off one another. Like, you never hear anything unique. It's so top-down. Like, you hear Karl Rove on TV cry about the same exact shit that Ben Shabibo was crying about on his fucking YouTube channel, and it's the exact same thing that any fucking MAGA commentator or any MAGA commenter on any fucking blog or forum or even in my chat is saying. It's all the same talking points. Unity? Oh, you mean to tell me that calling half the country racist and, you know, calling their cries for overturning the democratic results of an election to be a bad thing for democracy is unity? Doesn't sound like unity to me. Yeah, the only thing that trickles down in the Republican Party is just trickle down talking points.
Weird guy to do it. Right? I mean, just to begin with, he's a very partisan Democrat. He was a very partisan Democrat when he was in the United States Senate.
False. Joe Biden's entire shtick is that he was the Democrat that you could go to as a Republican to advocate for Republican policies. His main legislature, his main legislative accomplishments literally revolve around compromising with segregationists, trying to push the Democratic Party further right than the Republican Party. He was a champion of the Iraq War. I'm sorry to say this to all the Joe Biden stands in here, but the crime bill was so fucking aggressive that Ronald Reagan vetoed it the first time, and it had to be passed in different legislative packages because of how aggressive the Joe Biden crime bill originally was. Okay? So saying that Joseph Robinette Biden is like a partisan Democrat and he's known as like being the number one partisan is idiotic. His entire history revolves around being the most moderate Democrat you can be, the most centrist Democrat you can be, and literally working with Republicans all the goddamn time to pass Republican adjacent bills.
He was a very partisan Democrat when he was Barack Obama's vice president. He famously stated in 2012 that Mitt Romney was going to put black people back in chains. But put that to the side, he was going to be a unifying figure. And frankly,
again, baby. Republicans are babies, okay? They are babies, dude. Arab, all Republicans are babies. Like, his words by saying whatever the fuck he said about Mitt Romney, like, that's why he's partisan. Okay, well, look at his legislative accomplishments, brother. I mean, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts to be like, oh, well, he said a mean word, and therefore he is incredibly partisan. Okay.
Nice. Right? I mean, we've been very polarized. People have been at each other's throats, culminating in a really ugly scene on January 6th at the Capitol riot. But the question...
Oh, my God. The idea that, like, the Capitol riots have anything to fucking do with a democratic speech is so psychotic. I don't know how you can try it, but Republicans are trying it anyway. And I want to just congratulate Ben Shapiro for literally trying it, dude. It's actually Nancy Pelosi's fault that we fucking lied about the election results for months. It's actually Joe Biden's fault that we, in the Republican side, consistently cast aspersions of the legitimacy of the election in an effort to, you know, continue fucking making our money and continuing the grift so that these hogs get to a point of not being able to control themselves and literally act on those desires that we put in front of them. But it's actually the Democrats' fault because, you know, they were too divisive. And that's why the hogs were angry.
The question is, what does he mean by unity? So here is Joe Biden talking about unity. And his suggestion is that in order for there to be peace, there must be unity.
For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos.
And when Joe Biden says something like, there has to be unity before there can be peace, you got to wonder, what does he mean by unity? Does he mean that disagreement is going to be widely allowed? Or does he mean that if you disagree with me, I'm going to suggest that you are now disunifying and polarizing and wrecking the beautiful unity that would prevail in the absence of your stupid dissent? I'm not judging Joe Biden this early on. I'm asking whether Joe Biden is going to side with the left, whether he's going to side with the Democratic base, or whether he actually means what he says, and he presumes that he is going to uphold basic American principle and then dissent within that principle. Okay, and that brings us to number 2. Okay, again, a vague statement that can be interpreted a couple of ways. He talked a lot about truth versus lies.
Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth.
So again, unity means protecting the fragile egos of Republicans in the eyes of Republicans because they already get their legislative agenda across fairly regularly. So the only thing that you're left with is culture wars. Because like, if your goal is to prevent, if your goal is to literally obstruct, if your goal is to make sure that Congress and congressional power is as limited as possible, and that you stop the Democratic administration from doing anything, or at times when you're in power, if your goals, if your legislative agenda revolves around eradicating like federal agencies and its response and whatnot, starving the beast so that you can legitimize tax cuts in the future, and that is the long-standing ideological goal of the Republican Party, then you're getting all of that. You're getting all of those goals, and you're succeeding in all those goals. So Ben Shapiro can't fucking cry about those things. So he has to cry about like unity from the point of view of minor cultural grievances, like Republicans being called racist or something. Do you understand? Like unity from the point of view of like Joe Biden is Joe Biden's destroying the Muslim ban. Okay. Like that's not, why is that a legislative agenda item for the Republicans? Like the trans military ban or the Muslim ban. It's just idiotic. So Joe Biden reversing those decisions is whatever. It's not the worst thing. If Joe Biden was to advocate for larger tax hikes for the wealthy and corporations, then you have a real problem. Then you have a real legislative problem. So for Republicans, and because that's not going to happen, for Republicans, the thing that they're going to cry about is like, oh, they called us white supremacists.
Truth, and there are lies. Lies toll for power and for profit.
And that's why Ben is going to now say, well, he's mentioning lies, and he's going to say that, like, you know, Republicans are the ones who are lying, and that's not very unifying, bro.
The problem, of course, is that, again, when it comes to our politics, there are a lot of folks on the left who don't agree with that. They just agree with what they agree with. To folks on the left, it is a simple fact that America was rooted in racism, for example. To a lot of folks on the left, it is a simple fact that the police are systemically bigoted. To a lot of folks on the left, it is a simple fact that the gender pay gap is due to instinctive and ingrained American sexism, right? All of these are considered facts. Now, everything I just said, each one of those statements is an opinion. It happens to be based on very scanty evidence. When Joe Biden says that we have to distinguish between facts and lies, does he mean that in the very real sense in which 2 + 2 = 4 and 2 + 2 = 5 are not the same? Or does he mean things I disagree with will be considered as though they are lies, and things I agree with will be considered as though they are?
He took a long way of driving home that exact same thing that I was saying, but that's basically what he's saying. He's saying that, like, left operates on their own set of facts and they're not real facts. And he's basically saying everything that Republicans advocate for are not facts.
Are facts. This is a very, very
again, like it's great. It's great to be so predictable because that's just how Republicans are. That all of the things that people endlessly deliberate on, or all of the things that people have conducted numerous studies on, I'm just going to say they're shaky without any evidence whatsoever. As my camera shakes, I'm not going to prove to you that those are shaky. I'm not even going to give you exactly what the fucking incorrect statements are. And then I'm going to follow on, I'm going to follow through by telling you that Republicans are, Republicans just simply want to have their point be heard in the conversation, but it's not, because they're immediately called out as lying grifters, because they are.
Important question, because during the Obama administration, it was very much the latter. Okay, which brings us to the third theme of Biden's inaugural address, and that was the crises that America faces.
A cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer.
Okay, that is a political statement. It is not an objective statement of fact. There is no crisis of race relations in the United States other than the opinions that people hold about race relations. And the solutions that he is going to propose for that, as we'll talk about in a second, are going to verge on the racially discriminatory themselves. And then finally, he talked about climate change.
Oh, it's like the oldest fucking conservative line in the book, dude. It's not the racism that's the problem. It's actually doing anti-racism that's the problem, because anti-racism is inherently racist. And that racism is poof, gone, actually. And it's much better to, again, feel like racism is gone and it's no longer a problem in a country where there are clearly some very different outcomes for members of individual races. But that's on purpose, if you ask Ben Shapiro. That's because these people aren't just trying hard enough. But yeah, it's great. It's actually not the racism that's the problem. It's doing something about it. Of course, the question that you should ask people is, okay, well, if racial discrimination occurred throughout history along racial boundaries, how could you correct those mistakes without literally fucking focusing on, at least at some level, the race of the individual that's still experiencing the intergenerational discrimination or the consequences of that? That's you're asking stupid questions in that situation, because this person does not want to solve problems like caused by redlining, or solve problems that have caused by centuries of slavery and offering no fucking restitution as a consequence of that to black people, for example. Yeah. It is, in essence, no difference than saying it's actually racist to abolish slavery because, you're hurting the white people that need slavery to continue. What about all those white people that need slaves to continue their businesses? Which is an argument that Confederates made, so yeah. It's actually more racist to abolish slavery.
As an existential crisis for the United States, the solutions that he has proposed to climate change are utterly ineffectual. He has yet to prove that it is a crisis on the level of the immediate. And if he is talking about the crisis that is supposed to occur over the course of the next 100 years, he has not proposed any solutions that are directed towards solving that crisis. Those are the themes of his speech. Unity, which is, again, an empty vessel. It's got to be filled in. Facts versus lies. Empty vessel has to be filled in. And crises, 2 of the 4 that he mentions, are controversial to say the least. Which brings us to the second issue here. So for a guy who is unifying, you would assume that he would find some consensus policies, and then he would build around those consensus policies.
Just give me a crumb, dude. Give me a crumb of racism. Like, what are you doing? Come on, I'm Ben Shapiro. Let's say, hypothetically, you said you want to kill only 30% of the Latinos coming through the southern border. Hypothetically, that would be a unifying front that you are putting on. Let's say, hypothetically, you only want to jail 50% of the Mexican babies. That would be a cause for unity.
Policies. There are certain areas of American life where there happens to be fairly wide bipartisan support. Biden, with his initial executive orders, is jumping precisely into the areas where there is not significant.
Wait, what the fuck does that mean? Unity is when you allow Donald Trump's executive orders to continue without reversing it, as though every single American president has done time and time again. This is unity. Unity is allowing Donald Trump's executive orders to continue without reversing those decisions with your own set of executive orders, as every single president has done again and again and again. That's how you do unity.
Significant American bipartisan support. So to take a perfect example, he has decided that he is throwing out the 1776 Commission. This was a commission begun by...
There is no bipartisan support for the 1776 Commission. What the fuck are you talking about? Let's say, hypothetically, we assume that something that I like in the form of 1776 Commission is something that we need to have, because it'll really hurt my feelings if you hypothetically, destroyed that committee.
By President Trump. It was meant to rebut the 1619 Project, which is a fictionalized piece of propaganda put out.
Okay, 1619 Project is New York Times. 1776 Commission is literally an executive order created by the government. Shut the fuck up, okay? You are making a false equivalence here. If Joe Biden said, we're going to do the 1619 Commission now, then you could have a more legitimate argument. Do not even try to tell me that, like, some school districts are utilizing the 1619 Commission, or not commission, the 1619 research or project as a part of their curriculum. Again, that's entirely up to the states. It's like the fucking Daughters of the Confederacy advocating for whitewashing the Confederacy history very successfully in southern states and adding that into their fucking curriculum. It's idiotic. Also, one is closer to the truth than the other one. Sorry, the 1619 Project is infinitely closer to the fucking truth than what the Daughters of the Confederacy has done. Also, the 1776 Commission is literally just like fascist bullshit. And there is a reason why they did it in the last day of the fucking presidency, because they knew that they were going to reverse that anyway.
Out by Nicole Hannah-Jones and the New York Times. The basic idea of which is that America is rooted in and steeped in racism and bigotry. So Trump put together a commission that was supposed to re-inculcate American values and rebut a lot of those ideas. Biden's killing that one immediately.
Yeah, it's not unity, because Biden is killing something that Donald Trump totally made up. Like, at least with the New York Times Project, like, there are historians that disagree with the 1619 project, right? There are historians that disagree with it. Who the fuck was the historian that they even looked at for the 1776 Commission started by the government, again, which is very different than the fucking New York Times doing a project, okay? Who were the historians that were consulted? I just made it up, okay? I made it up. I want to do a 1776 Commission which says white is right going forward. And if you want to fucking eliminate that, well, then you're the real racist.
Suggested that he's going to simply stop enforcing immigration laws in certain ways, the same way that Barack Obama did, so as to make it a lot easier to illegally immigrate to the United States. He has suggested he's going to jump right back into the Paris Climate Accords. The Paris Climate Accords are maybe the most useless piece of paper ever written upon.
Then why are you crying about it? He's not even wrong, by the way. The Paris Climate Accords are literally fucking useless. For all of the people who are crying about it, or were crying about it before and are now crying about it, what is way more significant is like the personal jurisdiction that mayors and state officials have over what kind of fucking emissions restrictions that they're going to put in place. Okay, that is more significant, and that's precisely why even after Donald Trump said we're pulling out of the Paris Climate Accords, every fucking governor was like, no, we're still going to continue on with the emissions restrictions and protocols set in place. There are way more significant problems that the Donald Trump administration did. It's largely symbolic that he said he's going to get out of the fucking Paris Climate Accords, okay? Like, it was symbolic. And just like it is a useless piece of paper, I guess, it's symbolic that Joe Biden said we have our commitments to the Paris Climate Accord, and we're going to reaffirm that. It's entirely performative. Ben even understands that it's performative, and yet he's still fucking crying about it. So what the fuck are you crying about if it's purely performative, you dumb fuck? Sorry. It's also top of the hour every hour, 6-second ad break. I'm going to run the ad right now. If you want to no longer see the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5, or you can do it for free with the Twitch Prime. And then after that, we're going to continue on this video, okay? Twitch Prime you can get by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Here's the ad. Anyway. Fucking ad every second? Yeah, dude, I'm running ads every second. Except, no, I'm not. I'm running ads every hour for 60 seconds in the top of the hour, so.
Basically suggests that a bunch of nations are going to commit to targets that they have no proposals for actually hitting, but the goal is to shame everybody who is not a member of the Paris Climate Accords. He's appointing people who are unqualified for their positions solely on the basis of their identity groups. He has a new Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services who is transgender. That is the only headline that...
Wait, what the fuck? Wait. The trans secretary, like... I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Like, why would you... Why are you fucking saying that that she has no qualifications other than being trans? How is that in any way? Like, that's literally just saying, like, black people have no qualifications for the jobs that they have outside of being black. Like, that's why you hired. Or a woman that has no qualifications for the position that they're in outside of... You sound kind of mad, bro. Just chill, bro. I mean, that's fucking insane. That's insane to fucking throw out something so incredibly bigoted. What the fuck kind of qualifications do you have, dumbass? Like, yeah, I'm fucking mad, dude. Of course I'm mad. It's just straight up fucking transphobic. You're relying on the fact that other people who are listening to you are going to be transphobic to agree with you and say, yeah, they have no qualifications. Why shouldn't I be mad? It's nuts to say that Rachel Levine, or Levine, however you say it, has no fucking qualifications for the position that she got as a top health official after she was Pennsylvania's top health official. As Pennsylvania's Secretary of Health, Levine has risen to the national prominence for leading the state's public health response to the coronavirus pandemic despite repeated and ugly attacks on her gender identity. She was already confirmed 3 times by the Republican-controlled state Senate to serve as the Secretary of Health and the state's Physician General. Like, what do you want? Why are you... Where did it say she had no qualifications except her sexuality? You're making shit up to fit your narrative?
That is positive groups. He has a new assistant who are on Health and Human Services who is transgender. That is the only headline that is positive about this person. This person also happens to Health and Human Services for their positions solely on the basis of their identity groups. He has a new who are unqualified for their positions solely on the basis of their identity groups. He has a new who are unqualified for their positions solely on the basis of their identity groups. He has a new Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services who is...
What do you think that means? Should I replay it again? Because, I mean, listen, you're a conservative, so automatically I assume that, like, a part of your brain is missing. But what do you think it means when... What do you think it means when Ben Shapiro says... Joe Biden is appointing people into prominent positions despite having no qualifications for said positions. And then he follows it up by saying, the trans secretary. What do you think he means by that? Also, why are conservatives such fucking pussies, dude? Just own it. Like, it's so funny that, like, you literally want to say transphobic shit, but when you're called out, you're like, oh, that's just not what I meant. Just fucking own it. We already know you're a fucking transphobe. Just own it, you dumb fuck. You took him out of context. It's so stupid. Like, what is your fucking fear there in that situation? Like, you've already outed yourself as being a fucking moron, and not just because you're a transphobe, but like because you're a Ben Shapiro fan. So you've already you have. Don't worry, you can be as stupid as you want going forward. We're definitely going to make fun of you regardless because you're a Ben Shapiro fan. You are literally defending Ben Shabibo.
Transgender. That is the only headline that is positive about this person. This person also happens to have been the Secretary of Health and Human Services in the state of Pennsylvania, who shipped COVID positive old people back into nursing homes. So on the con side would be killed a bunch of olds.
Wait, I'm sorry. That's really interesting that Ben's saying that, because if I recall, Ben was saying, you know, if the economy gets started, but if you're over the age of 78, you know, and they die, if old people die, then they're living on borrowed time anyway. Of course, not understanding how average life expectancies work, and if people immediately started dying after the age of 78, then that would lower the average life expectancy. But that's basic mathematics, so that's going to be very difficult for Ben to comprehend with his big city lawyer degree from Harvard. But that's rather strange. Huh. Interesting.
In Pennsylvania via COVID. And on the pros would be, is a man who believes that he is a
Ben Shapiro suggests older people dying of COVID-19 is tragic, but also not so bad. Oh, yeah, by the way, he did say that, you dumb fucks.
trying to balance the risks and rewards here is a difficult thing. The easiest thing you can do is say all damages caused are caused by the pandemic. All of the good things that are happening, like you being alive, that is caused by me, right? It's sort of the Gretchen Whitmer strategy in Michigan. And that's a very easy thing to say. But in reality, you know, not only are there countervailing issues on the other side, such as the fact that, you know, people are going to lose their jobs and their livelihoods and their dreams, and quality of life actually matters. But none of these governors are going to keep things locked down forever. I mean, Andrew Cuomo, when he said just save one life, 5 days later, he's saying we're going to open up parts of New York State. Okay, so which is it? I mean, obviously that means that more people are going to be infected. So we're always going to make this public policy consideration. Nobody just wants to say the obvious truth, which is that we're all making actuarial deductions about what are the costs in terms of how many human lives, how many years of life, because that is an actual issue in actuarial tables, right? If somebody who is 81 dies of COVID-19, that is not the same thing as somebody who is 30 dying of COVID-19. I mean, if this were killing children, everyone would be in for lockdown forever. That's the reality, right? If a bunch of 5-year-olds were dying of COVID-19 and people were saying get back to work, I'd be like, nope, I'm not letting my 5-year-old die. If grandma dies in a nursing home at age 81, that's tragic and it's terrible. Also, the life expectancy in the United States is 80. So that is not the same thing. In moral terms, you want to save every life you can. At the same time, to pretend that it is of the same calculation, the age of the person, no public policy acts like that. Not a single public policy in American life acts like that. Trying to balance.
But here he is again criticizing public policy after he already said that you know, these healthcare considerations from epidemiologists factors in actuarial decisions on what happens with people's life expectancy. So that's kind of weird. I mean, I think it's a heartless thing to fucking openly state, right? Especially because regardless, the entire purpose is to the entire purpose of healthcare policy is to minimize deaths no matter what happens, okay? But if that's your position and you are understanding of that, if you understand like, well, some people over the age of 81 or some people over the age of 78 are going to fucking die, which would be literally the death panel argument that Republicans also used to make against Obamacare, then why the fuck are you shitting on someone who allowed older people to go back to care facilities after they had gotten COVID? Isn't that something that, or maybe it's just because, you know, it's a Democrat doing it. I got it. Which is what it is. Like that's basically what it is. It's like when a Republican does it, it's all right. When a Democrat does it, it's not all right. And I'm going to criticize it no matter what.
We have heard from Janet Yellen and people in the economic side of the Biden administration that they wish to immediately rethink American policy on the basis of quote unquote racial equity, which is to suggest discrimination, right? Because the idea here is not that we are going to try to create a functioning economy that works and that generates prosperity. The idea is going to be that if there's inequality between racial groups, that can be rectified by redistributionism between racial groups via economic policy. Now, we've heard that Joe Biden wants to put back in place the entire team that negotiated the Iran nuclear deal, a deal that was, in fact, so damaging to a lot of our allies in the Middle East that it ended up almost solving the Israeli-Arab dispute because so many people hated the Iran nuclear deal. And his allies in Congress are encouraging him that if he can't get congressional support for this sort of stuff, as James Clyburn suggested, he should just...
The Iran nuclear deal is probably one of the greatest foreign policy accomplishments that the Obama administration had. I've been incredibly critical of the Obama administration's foreign policy decisions. Outside of that, Iran was following the terms of that denuclearization agreement, regardless of the fact that America literally fucking said under Donald Trump that they were going to pull out of it. They still kept following it, according to third-party investigators from Europe. But it doesn't really matter. Ben Shabibo does not care about this at all, and he thinks that America should be able to renege on deals for no reason and just rip them for no reason other than the fact that we are America. How the fuck are you ever going to ever have peace deals conducted with countries that you consider to be foreign adversaries ever again if, you know, the next time someone else fucking becomes president, they could just like shit on it? It's great.
Just go ahead and do it from the top.
If they're going to be recalcitrant, if they're going to throw up roadblocks...
Iran agreed to denuke, but they're still making nukes. KEKW. Iran literally agreed to denuclearize. They followed through on their end of that bargain. They literally followed through on that. Even after Donald Trump became president and said he's going to throw it out. And even after Donald Trump threw it out, Iran was still following through on the denuclearization agreement. But it doesn't fucking matter because Donald Trump followed through, put sanctions. By the way, Democrats voted on those sanctions as well, for the record. Literally fucking put sanctions on Iran despite the fact that they were following their end of the bargain. Okay? Of course, there is a country with a robust nuclear program. That country's name is Israel, but we will never talk about that because Israel is America's ally. So there it is. Believing Iran, lol W. Man, shut the fuck up. Why the fuck should Iran ever believe America, bitch? This way of operating as though like other countries are not autonomous and that there aren't like human beings with their own thoughts and with their own interests of preserving themselves in these other countries is so fucking tired. Like, believing Iran, lol W. Why would Iran believe America? Build all the fucking nukes you want going forward. Why in the ever-loving fuck should Iran ever bargain with the United States of America ever again in any fucking terms whatsoever? Build the fucking nukes all goddamn day now. We don't have this kind of conversation around Pakistan. Why, I wonder? They're a brown country, right? Because they already have the nukes. Israel literally went forward and assassinated a fucking top scientist on Iranian soil. It's like completely fucking beyond the pale. The shit that both America and Israel has done to Iran is literally completely unacceptable. Completely fucking unacceptable.
Go on without them. Use your executive authority if they refuse to cooperate.
Is that unity? Does that sound like truth versus lies? That brings us to the final question here, which is, okay, what do we do about it? As conservatives, what do we do about all of this stuff? Alrighty, so Joe Biden tends to put me to sleep. I mean, he tends to put himself to sleep. But if he puts you to sleep and you actually need to stay awake, you do it.
What the fuck is he selling? Oh my God.
Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and such to be bringing them into tens of millions of homes.
Right? We are seeing this in social media as well directly, where the tech bros have decided that they are simply going to cave to the Democrats in the hope that they will be left alone, or they actually agree with Democrats that a lot of the language they don't like is now going to be considered dangerous and ought to be banned. Okay, so what do we do about it? One, make sure that you
Listen, man, miss me with this bullshit. Anything that Ben Shapiro says about tech censorship is complete lie, okay? One, the Daily Wire literally wrote like 8 fucking articles on me with the 9/11 Dan Crenshaw shit, specifically to try to get me banned. 2, Ben Shapiro is a massive advocate for the Canary mission, okay? Which is literally an institution built, an organization built specifically to dox people that they declare to be anti-Semitic. Some of those people are white supremacists and anti-Semitic, by the way. Don't get me wrong. There is legitimate anti-Semites and legitimate fucking fascists they're doxing. But then there's also random fucking brown people that are like registered nurses or some shit. And they've keyword searched Jew on their fucking profile to be like, all right, it's over. This guy's a fucking anti-Semite, kick this guy out of his job. So this notion that like, or BDS activist, by the way, which is the greatest part about it all. So Ben Shapiro claiming to be a fucking free speech advocate is a laughable notion, considering how much he fucking cries about boycott, divestment, and sanctions on the state of Israel, and how much BDS activists should deserve to get fucking fired from their positions. So get the fuck out of here. Tech censorship absolutely destroys the left way more than it fucking destroys Ben Shabibo. Mr. Ben Shabibo is literally straight up benefiting from Facebook, for example, working with the Heritage Foundation early on in consulting for tech censorship, a problem that they created. Conservatives consistently talk about tech censorship as a way to game the system in their favor, okay? That's all this is. It's kind of like how conservatives say elections are under attack, election integrity is under attack, so that they can justify voter suppression measures. This is how it works. They cry about tech censorship so that they can continue dominating the fucking algorithms. And it's very successful.
actually get out and work for Republican congressional candidates in 2022. There is another election coming up. The party out of power typically does very well in the off-year elections. Right now, the Democrats have the slimmest governing majority in the House of Representatives in several generations. That can easily be flipped. But that means the Republicans have to get out there and work. They don't just have to get out there and work for candidates. They have to pressure their legislatures and legislators at the state level to redo how voting is done so we don't have the fiasco that was universal mail-in balloting this time. It means better voter verification.
Universal mail-in balloting was a fiasco is such a fucking indecent, hack, fraudulent fucking thing to say. It's such an indecent thing to say. It is literally, you're just saying that you don't want people to vote. That's all you are fucking saying. That's all you are doing. That's all you are saying. Any sane country should hear, in any other country, if we were a sane country, we would hear someone say this and go, oh, fuck that guy. That guy hates democracy. Okay, suck my dick and move on. And yet, here in America, that is a legitimate point of contention. Wow.
Verification. It means voter ID. It is to suggest you need to vote on the day that the election is held, and you better have a good excuse for not doing it that way. And it better be you when you actually vote, right? That would help as well. You need to get Senator Joe Manchin on your speed dial. So Senator Joe Manchin is the sole force right now militating against the death of the filibuster in the United States Senate. If he starts to waver on that, I'm going to give you his phone number right now. If you're a West Virginian citizen particularly, you need to sound off to your senator if he starts to waver on that principle 1 iota. His number is 304-342-5855. You're going to have to hold his feet to the fire to stop him from violating.
No, that's not doxing, guys. Come on. It's like their office. Of course, that's normal. Stop being babies. It's not doxing. That's like literally his fucking office number. And it's a completely normal thing to get people to engage in these sorts of call campaigns. It's pretty funny though that he is a Republican trying to get Republican watchers in his audience to call a Democratic senator. Tells you a lot about Joe Manchin and where he stands on the political spectrum, but you know, that's besides the point, of course. All right, let's keep going.
Fundamental norms in getting rid of the filibuster. Once the filibuster is gone, Democrats can, with a simple 50 plus Kamala Harris vote, add states like Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, adding 4 Democratic senators. They can move.
Oh my God, that would be so terrifying if there was more representation. Honestly, again, I am literally shaking, dude. I am shitting my pants. I'm shitting, pissing, and coming. Thinking about more representation from areas and territories. Wow. Fuck, that would be disastrous, dude. Disastrous. Absolutely unacceptable.
Forward theoretically with packing the Supreme Court. They could move forward with completely rewriting broad swaths of American law. So Joe Manchin stands between the Republic in that sense and a sort of crack up that faces us if, with the barest of bare majorities, Democrats start cramming down extraordinary top-down policy. States that are red should start protecting their citizens from the predations of national institutions. If the social media bros decide that they are simply going to violate the sort of free speech rights that you would have were this a public sector company by cracking down on dissent in monopolistic fashion, right? Coordinating and then all deciding that certain views are out of the debate and out of the domain of normal public discourse, states are going to have to step in. You've started to see this in some states, proposals being put forth that any ISP that discriminates, any cable provider that discriminates on the basis of politics, any social media network that discriminates on the basis of politics will not be able to operate in a particular state. That restrictions will be placed on those companies. I'm not a fan of using this sort of interventionism with regard to these companies. But if the companies have basically centralized all the power to control your speech in the public forum, then I don't see a whole hell of a lot of protections outside of state governments, especially if the federal government is forcing a lot of this. Conservatives are going to have to get very active.
Wait, by the way, guys, Ben Shabibo was anti-net neutrality. Like, I'm not even kidding. Ben Shabibo was literally advocating against net neutrality, which Ajit Pai, Donald Trump's FCC, like head of FCC, repealed. Ben Shabibo, while that was happening, straight up was against net neutrality. And not only that, but I have a video on it. Like, I literally did a video on Ben Shabibo being anti-net neutrality, which was so psychotic that even his audience was getting mad at him over. I actually have the fucking... I actually have the receipts, like, literally right here.
Given how the internet has become
Here it is.
such an important part of how we learn. So I don't believe in net neutrality.
I'm not just going to talk about net neutrality today, which died this past week. I'm also going to use this clip to illustrate how Ben Shapiro covers net neutrality with incredibly disingenuous framing to manipulate his viewers into believing standing against net neutrality is not only the logical opinion, but the one that will more effectively help the little guy. And then he also frames it against liberals, as if only liberals are against net neutrality, when 83% of the country was against it.
It was only put into place in the last couple of years of the Obama administration. And before that, the internet was working just fine.
How intellectually dishonest of you to never once mention why these regulations were put into place to begin with. So let me do that instead. Net neutrality was established under Obama after consumers found out that Verizon was throttling Netflix's speed right around the time that Verizon was also entering the content space with their own video streaming service to compete with, wait for it, Netflix! Verizon Go 90 is what it's called, which, by the way, we also have a show on. What Ben's fighting against here is basically the will of the people. It's grassroots mobilization in the democratic process actually working. Net neutrality is an incredibly popular idea consumers wanted, competing against $15 million of lobbying in the interest of big corporations. But go on, Ben, tell us more.
Net neutrality is basically the suggestion that internet service providers have to supply traffic, supply all use of traffic the same price. So Netflix, which eats up an enormous amount of bandwidth, has to be charged the same as some schmo in his basement who is just loading up his blog.
Yeah, you're right, Ben. Netflix is using the same $50 a month internet package that I use to post my hashtag MCN thirst traps on Instagram, but instead to run their global video streaming operation. By the way, follow me on Instagram. How dumb do you think your audience is, Ben? Also, Netflix is already paying ransom money for...
God, I'm so cringe. I can't even watch this anymore. Anyway, but yeah, he was... The point is, he was pro-net neutrality, or sorry, he was anti-net neutrality, and now he is in favor of it because he's a disingenuous asshat who only defends Republicans, and that's pretty much what he does, and that's it. That's pretty much all there needs to be said about this situation. Oh, so fucking cringe. Holy shit. I was cringe too. You want to watch the rest of it?
additional
Go ahead.
bandwidth that they use. Repealing net neutrality will allow ISPs to do
I
that
can't
not
watch.
just to Netflix, but to every company, including the schmoes, as you call it, and charge additional money to all apps and small businesses, essentially destroying the meritocracy that the internet has been thus far. The internet was a free market, Ben. Why change that? Don't you love the free market?
The reality is that if you're taking up a huge share of the bandwidth, then there might be companies that say, we will provide you a faster access, but you have to pay more money.
Ben Shapiro describes how high-speed internet packages work. Liberals are triggered. Oh!
It's not incumbent on internet service providers to be forced to be treated like public utilities.
Except they are public utilities, Ben, and should be treated as such, since they need an incredible amount of infrastructural support from the government.
The way to think of it is that internet service providers are like the pipes.
Wait, Ben, that sounds a lot like a public utility, like water.
The content of the internet is like water.
Oh. That's a public utility, you moron! You'd think they teach you how to argue better at Harvard Law!
So you can think of it in two ways. It's a public utility. Everybody should be able to turn on the tap at the same time and get the water.
Yeah, which is how it was enforced under net neutrality.
Or that the pipe company should be able to charge you what they want, or charge the water company what it wants for the water moving through the pipes.
Which is what will happen now that net neutrality has been repealed.
It's not quite like a pipe.
Wait, what? But you just said it was like a pipe a moment ago. Is it a pipe or is it not a pipe?
Because you can have multiple pipes, right? There are multiple internet service providers.
Except there aren't multiple internet service providers. Just look at this map of Minneapolis where two companies have split this entire city like a gang war. Or look at LA where Time Warner and Charter are basically like the Bloods and Crips. Gang gang. Dab on them. Oh wait, that's an old map. Those two companies actually merged to provide the absolute shittiest service to me under the new brand Spectrum. Fuck you, Spectrum.
One of the reasons that net neutrality has
Yeah, I fucking dabbed. Shut up.
become such an issue is because of special deals with local governments by a lot of the internet service providers. So they're the only providers in their region.
I'm gonna stop you right here, Ben. First off, the fact that there's no competition isn't just local government deals, you lying sack of shit. That's one of those mergers these massive ISPs love. These ISPs you're trying to paint as the victims here. More importantly though, Ben is using one of his key debate tactics here, and it's important for you and everyone else to see it, because he loves leading us down these rabbit holes with these bullshit, oversimplified analogies that he delivers with conviction as though they're remotely realistic. They're not. It's not even a rabbit hole because that would imply there's depth to Ben's arguments. So I'm just gonna call it the Ben hole, where you build an argument around a faulty analogy and then launch retorts from this new world you created, and anyone trying to dismantle your concepts have to do it from Ben's hole. So now that we've identified this, I'm not gonna waste any more time trying to correct his insane talking points and address the larger concepts that he's trying to advance.
If there were open competition, you would actually see competition, like older people who only want to watch TV but don't actually want to use Netflix or Hulu. They should be able to get the internet cheaper.
Yeah, there isn't competition, you're right about that, except the payment structure you're pushing for already exists within cheaper, lower bandwidth options. If you only use the internet for checking emails, then you buy a slower package. If you binge watch anime like me, you buy the fastest package possible and then get angry during peak hours when they slow your internet down anyway.
There's nothing wrong with any of this. This is why when people say it's a corporate giveaway to get rid of net neutrality, there are major corporations like Google and Netflix who basically want to prevent smaller companies from being able to take advantage of differential pricing on ISPs to compete with them.
You're providing zero evidence to Google and Netflix's nefarious reasons, while then trying to paint them as big corporations against, what, the little guy that is Verizon and Spectrum? What's going on in your hole, Ben? You make it seem as though ending net neutrality will somehow benefit consumers, but the truth is that ending net neutrality will only stand to make ISPs able to control the internet services in an even more tyrannical way. It's like saying getting rid of the Last Jedi will allow the Empire to finally control the universe in a way that benefits consumers.
Bottom line is the internet was fine before anybody started messing with it. The odd passion over net neutrality has always puzzled me.
This is literally the whole dumb argument wrapped up into one sentence. Don't be fooled by the pizzazz Ben Shapiro has. He's no gladiator, unlike what the New York Times would suggest. He's simply doing what he does best, which is defending the interests of big corporations and the wealthy against the interest of you, the actual little guy. So if you're like me and you're fed up seeing Ben Shapiro all over your timeline, please share this video with your friends and also leave me a comment telling me if you want me to continue doing more Ben Shapiro videos. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hun. And this has been The Breakdown.
Shut up. I did a fucking, yes. I did a Star Wars reference too. I hit all the fucking cringe notes.
in the legal arena. Democrats have for decades used the power of the judicial branch in order to get policy done that they couldn't get done at the legislative level. People on the
Pure projection from Ben Shabibo here, by the way. Yes, that's literally shot inside of a fucking closet. Fuck you. No, it's not frozen rice. I got a drink before at some point, but
the right need to coordinate in terms of the lawsuits that they are filing in order to uphold their rights in the face of discrimination on the basis of religion or violation of freedom of religion, on the basis of free speech rights. And all these things are going to have to get litigated in court. And then finally, on an interpersonal level, we're going to have to talk with one another. We're going to have to stop hunkering down in the silos that we've built for ourselves, and we are going to actually have to start talking with one another, convincing.
Seems like my main man Shabibo no longer has any power, or at least his will will. A little worried that his will not be represented in the administration. So now he's like, come on, we gotta fucking talk to one another, dude. Come on. Sounds like fucking loser talk to me, brother. That's what it sounds like. Smells like fucking loser in here, dude. Guess what? Sorry, you lost, bitch. This notion that like we gotta fucking talk to Republicans or we gotta spare Republicans of their feelings. Yeah, fuck that.
One another, treating each other with respect. Weirdly enough, that's exactly what Joe Biden advocated for in his inaugural address. I hope that he takes it seriously. I certainly do. And I hope that we have those conversations. If we do, then I think that the next few years could actually be bright. I think that we could actually start moving beyond the partisan polarization that we have seen. I don't have a lot of faith that that's what's going to happen, but I think that if you engage with your neighbors and with your family, then that is the best possible outcome, and that will shift hearts and that will shift minds and will make people more conservative over the course of time. Final note, there's one other thing you should do, and that is you should support alternative institutions to the institutions that exist and are discriminating against conservatives and intend to crack down on conservatives. If you don't like the establishment media,
Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up, bitch.